All right. Welcome into the A to Z Sports Big Orange podcast. I believe our YouTube listing said that we were going to start at 5:30. It is now 5:05, and that's okay because that was actually to accommodate somewhere that Zach had to be, and he got back early. So we get to start a little early. Charlie Burris, Zach Reagan, wherever you listen throughout the world, we thank you very much for listening to our show. We talk everything Vols every week on the Big Orange Podcast. If you want to listen to that on the reg, go over to the A to Z Sports Podcast Network feed on Apple or Spotify. When you get there, rate, review. But you got to subscribe. If you do subscribe, you won't miss our shows when we drop them on Monday. Speaking of Mondays, it is one right now, as I said, at 5:05 p.m. That means we're live on YouTube. A to Z Sports Tennessee Volunteers on YouTube is where you can find us. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell when you get there. And when you hit that notification bell, you'll be notified when we go live. So then it doesn't matter what time. It could be 5 o'clock. It could be 7 a.m. It doesn't matter. You'll be notified when we go live, and you can hop in here and join us and be a part of the show. It's always a great time. At Charlie_Burris, that's at TNT at A to Z Sports, Facebook.com/A to Z Sports Nashville, and AZSports.com for everything that Zach writes on the internet about the Tennessee Volunteers. And Zach, it has been, as far as Januaries go, as eventful as it will get for Tennessee. Obviously, we had the bowl game last week, which technically we could talk about. I hashed it out with Jonathan Crompton in the postgame show. Tennessee lost to Illinois. It was ugly. It was stupid. You should have won. Joey Aguilar had a fumble 6, and it was ugly. And I was annoyed by it. And you can go listen to me and Crompton hash it out on the A to Z Sports Tennessee Volunteers YouTube channel. But it's just been beyond the bowl game. It's been an insane week of just stuff going on with the transfer portal. How's it making you feel, Zach?
Yeah, I've already forgot about that Illinois game. It seems like it was just less than a week ago. But yeah, with all the portal stuff, it's been crazy, and it's just continues to get crazier and crazier each year. This setup where you get portal opens on January 2nd, is open for 2 weeks, and everybody just scrambling to get in, take visits, make decisions, lock down spots. It's just chaos because everybody's trying to make their best decision for them while also securing a spot. You don't want to, kind of like musical chairs. You don't want to be the last one, left without a seat. So some of these guys will commit to programs on the first visit. If you don't get the first visit, you're really rolling the dice on if you're going to land that guy or not. So it's all over the place, but it's been fun to watch, entertaining. And Tennessee's, they're in the mix for a lot of good players, a lot of good transfer players. We'll see if they can get some. They've already landed a commitment from 1 or 2. Hopefully some more is on the way.
Basically trying to transplant Penn State's defense down here to Tennessee, which good, because what you hear about Jim Knowles is, Jim Knowles' defense doesn't get good until year 2 or year 3. Well, thankfully, if you can get some of those guys, that will be their second year in the Jim Knowles defense. It was rough in year 1 at Penn State, but it was really good in years 2 and 3 at Ohio State. Obviously won a national championship with it a couple of years ago. But the portal, what was it? 4,500 kids in there. 30, I think I saw a stat on 3 posted or somebody. 31% of all players in college football are in the transfer portal.
It's crazy.
I don't even know how you describe it. It's more than a circus. This is just, it's more than I ever thought. Like, my prediction was this, that the first couple of years, you'd see a lot of guys go in and have a really tough time coming back out and finding places to land. And those guys would go and tell the horror story and say, like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I regret that. Oh, whoopsie. And then you would see the number of guys going into the portal go down. Since I had that prediction, I want to say it was a couple of years, something like that. The number just keeps going up and up and up and up. And it's, these guys aren't all going to find a spot. They're just not, period. You can't. 4,500 guys shuffling around while high schoolers also feed into college football. It's not happening. A bunch of these guys are losing the spot. And a number of those are probably guys being gently asked to leave or told that their NIL deal is not being renewed or whatever. And that's tough. But outside of that, it's just crazy. I don't even know what to think about it still. And I gotta hope that Tennessee is kind of in the catbird seat. That's what we're going to be talking about on today's show, is whether or not Tennessee is gonna be able to do that and what it looks like right now for them in the transfer portal. And then a little bit of basketball talk on the tail end, as you took a annoying loss at Arkansas, not a necessarily unexpected loss at Arkansas, but an annoying loss because you had the lead for a decent little chunk of that game. But so we can start here, Zach, just quickly, if you want to give us a rundown of where Tennessee is at. Where exactly do we want to start? I guess let's start with this. Who has left?
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. I think that's a good place to start because I think that right there is what's so frustrating about the transfer portal at this point is that you can't build depth. And I think that's why things like firing James Franklin after a 3-3 start, like I know how the expectations were and all that, but how sustainable is running programs like that? Because there's the volatility and year to year for these programs is dependent on how your transfer portal, additions work out. I can't remember. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but something like 40% of the rosters in the Final Four of the playoff are transfer or have, transfer guys, or that amount of their roster is built with transfer players. So your success is contingent on those guys working out. And if you just get a handful of guys that don't work out, or you have some injuries like Tennessee had this season, you can drop some close games because of the parity in the sport. So guys like William Satterwhite that left Tennessee, who is your backup center, Bennett Warren, who maybe could have competed for a starting tackle job with Lance Hurd leaving, another one there. Max Anderson, another guy that could have been in the battle for the backup center job. Those guys leaving, I mean, they would have been important for depth. I mean, Hurd was a starter, obviously, but beyond him, that's important depth that you need. I mean, we've seen it. Everybody sees it. You're going to have injuries in the trenches, especially in the offensive line. You're not going to get through a whole season starting the same five every snap. Like, it doesn't happen. It's not realistic. Those guys take a beating. And now you've got a lack of depth, and you've got to go find some depth or rely on young high school players that just aren't quite ready to do it yet. And it's just, what do you do? If Satterwhite, and these are made up numbers, but let's say he was making $200,000 to be a backup center at Tennessee, and then Virginia or something comes and says, hey, we'll pay you, we'll double that. You can come start and be the starting center here for $400,000. I mean, it's a big chunk of money, especially if you're 20 years old. 30, that's a big chunk of money, period. What are you supposed to do? Like that's tough to turn down. So I understand why these guys do what they do. It's a huge opportunity for them. I can't say what I would do in that situation, as I've never been in that situation. I can't say what I would tell my kid to do in that situation, because I don't have a kid that's been in that situation, but I can imagine they're pretty tough decisions to make, and it's tough to leave that amount of money on the table. But Tennessee now got it, man, and they're not alone in this. Everybody's the same way. They got to hope that everybody stays healthy. But losing Lance Hurd, Satterwhite, Max Anderson along your offensive line, Bennett Warren, those are tough losses. Peyton Lewis, your running back going into the portals, I don't think that's a huge deal. You'll find a third guy, just like you did last season with Star Thomas. Beyond that, on the defensive side, there's a couple surprises, but I think we've figured there'd be a little more movement this year just because you've changed your defensive staff. You got Caleb Herring, edge, going into the portal. Not a shock when his position coach, isn't coming back next season. We'll see what Jordan Ross decides to do. I think that one's still up in the air a little bit. But these are there's just tough decisions that have to be made, and it's tough as a program to figure out who to pay, who not to pay, how much to pay. Do you go over budget to keep this guy here? Do you cut him loose because you want to keep a young guy instead, but then that young guy's not ready? I mean, it's a very daunting task to manage all this right now. And on top of that, we said at the top of the show, to replace these guys, you got to be kind of first in line to get some of these visits, and that's not always possible just because of logistics. Everybody's situation is different. It just may work out that somebody can go visit another school first easier, and then they end up committing on that. And what do you do? I mean, that's just bad luck. It's nothing that necessarily Tennessee's done wrong or anything like that, but that's why it's so tough right now.
Yeah, we said it last week. The perverse incentives that are happening right now. I don't know how you beat them across the board. It's basically impossible. I mean, on YouTube down here, Ken Chambers, he says, I just want loyalty back from the players. How much money does an 18 to 20-year-old really need? I would put it this way. I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee. I went to the University of Tennessee. I've lived and died with them since I was a child. And if I had played college football in Tennessee and somebody from another school in the middle of that came to me and was like, hey, we'll give you $1.2 million to come here. I'm going there. I'm sorry. That's life altering money. And to a college kid, like you said, like $400,000 is life altering money. That's an insane amount of money. I was working at Lowe's in college, making $12 an hour. Thinking $100 would have changed my life in college, and these guys are making $1.2 million. Like, I get what Ken is saying, and I wish there was loyalty like that. I really do. But I mean, you got to look. It's like when that question comes up, when guys have an extra year of eligibility, but they're at the borderline of being good enough to go to the NFL. In the past, I've always leaned towards strike while the iron's hot. Go make your money. You gotta take advantage of this while you have it. And if you have an opportunity to just go and make massive sums of money, who am I? Am I saying that I love this and that I think that this is the best thing for college football? Absolutely not. I think it's a clown show all the way around. Because you also have freaking Pete Nakos out here going and doing promo for all of these clown agents who are like kids themselves. Also, it looks like their agency started by guys like dads that they're and Nakos is going out here, and I don't know if are those guys like asking him to give them promo. I don't. If you haven't seen on Twitter, he's posting who is going into the portal, and then for almost all of them, he's saying this person will be represented by John Doe at friggin' athletic agency agents.
I think that's just
so weird.
I think it's just to get those guys' names out there in case a program is trying to get in touch with that kid. I'm sure most of that stuff's in the portal and all that, but I also think that you're just trying to, I don't know, give the kid a little more publicity. I guess it is kind of odd, but I mean, I've
just never seen it before.
We've never seen any of this before.
Yeah,
I mean, it's been a complete cluster watching all of this over the last couple of days, watching all these kids go in and out, and where they're going to go. It is what it is. I mean, Tennessee's just got to deal with it, right? Like we all have the same feelings about it. I think where I don't know if it's ruining college football, because I think the product on the field has been compelling. You look at the playoff this year, you're going to have a brand new champion, a first-time national champion head coach for the third year in a row. Georgia's not in it. Alabama's not in it. Ohio State's not in it. So I think that part of it's good. I like that. I like the parity. You have a chance now. Everybody seemingly has a chance if you're at a Power 4 school. But, Tennessee's just going to have to deal with it and try to build their roster the best way possible while playing by these rules. And they're going to have to be cutthroat. They're going to have to pay a little more than they want to pay in some instances. They're going to have to be a little pushy when kids get on campus. Don't let a kid leave. Like Chaz Coleman, the Penn State edge, who's on campus at Tennessee today. He's already taken the visit to LSU. You were fortunate that he got out of Baton Rouge without committing to LSU after he took the picture and posted it in LSU gear with a Bentley and Lane Kiffin outside of Tiger Stadium. You got him to Knoxville without committing to LSU. Now you need to get him to commit to Tennessee before leaving and going to Ohio State tomorrow. Because if he goes to Ohio State and they get the last visit, I'm not saying Tennessee won't land him if if he leaves without committing. But I think the advantage suddenly goes to Ohio State in that situation if they're willing to pay what Tennessee and LSU is willing to pay.
Yeah, it's it's a mess. I mean, it's a good point here. Derek Sanders in the comments says money is not the problem; it's the unlimited transfers. I would agree. The fact that you can just shift around with impunity and there's no structure to these contracts that we know about. I would hope there is, but how much can you really hold them down?
Not much without a union or a CBA.
Yeah, exactly. There's so little structure around it. Yeah, you got to rate it in somehow, and until then, you're going to get 5,000 kids in the portal, and here we sit. Now, with that being said, this presents a pretty insane opportunity for Tennessee, who is in what I hope is a desperate and urgent spot. And I think you're seeing that out of Josh Heupel. I will say, people were getting up in arms because it came out today that Indiana, who is in the semifinal of the playoffs with one of the best dudes in the game right now coaching them, they have like 6 commits already out of the transfer portal while they're in the playoffs still. And Tennessee has 1. People were kind of belly aching about that. I saw on Twitter. And fine. It's crazy what Indiana's doing. Cignetti's like out of this world right now. It's honestly, it's completely insane. Kind of without explanation. Like, I get it, but it's still Bloomington, Indiana, and a school where you're going to play second fiddle to basketball. Like, I get it, but like, I don't. And maybe my brain just has to adjust to the new landscape of college football, and it just hasn't yet. But I have seen enough evidence to this point to say that Josh Heupel is taking a much different approach than he did last year. Last year, you heard nothing. It seemed like they were just like lackadaisical about it, just really didn't do much, and ultimately had, what was it, 6 transfers or something?
Well, and I will say with that, the guys they got were impactful, and they typically are.
Yeah.
But it does feel like they leave a lot on the table each year. Like, they don't end up being in the mix for some of these top of the market guys, and this year they are, at least on the defensive side so far, with a few guys.
Yeah, I mean they're going after the amount of guys that they are hosting, and the amount of urgency that they're showing is good. The real key from this point is, who are they actually going to get? You got to get these dudes from Penn State. You got to. I like this kid, the kid out of Kansas State, Quay
Moss.
Yeah, Quay Moss.
Classic football last name.
Absolutely, and he looks like a very solid player. You got some guys coming out of Penn State potentially who, I mean, the Coleman kid. The Coleman kid's like first-round draft pick next year. Total and complete game changers. And so pony up if you can. If Tennessee has resources, give it to that kid and bring him in with his defensive coordinator that he had this past year. And I think that's huge. You have you mentioned some other guys from. Who all was it from Penn State? One of them is the signal caller for Penn State's defense.
The safety or the linebacker, Amari Campbell?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, I think he's planning to visit Tennessee. That would be an ideal guy to put into this defense, especially with Arian Carter going to the NFL. He's a guy that Jim Knowles liked at Penn State, said some great things about him last season. He was his first, so he transferred from North Carolina after the 24 season. So he's just at Penn State last year. It was after spring practice. It was kind of like Colton Hood in Tennessee, where he came from Colorado after spring practice. So he didn't practice until August. His first practice at Penn State, I guess Jim Knowles does this thing. It's not quite Barb's chip dip player of the week or whatever that Butch Jones used to do, but he does this like defender of the day thing where they kind of get recognized after practice in front of the whole team. And Amari Campbell won that his very first practice at Penn State. So clearly that's a guy that Knowles likes. It would make a ton of sense for him to go to Tennessee, but they're still going to have to pay him. Like, he's not going to take a discount, I don't think, to go to Tennessee. I don't think any of these guys are going to take major discounts to go to Tennessee or to go anywhere. Like, I mean, it's just, you need to maximize your value. I get it. That's what it's all about. You only get so many shots maybe to get some money
out of this, because really, even if you're a top prospect, you don't know what the future holds. I mean, you may be a future, $100 million contract guy, but you don't know how healthy you're going to stay. You just don't know how things will pan out. So it's even for those guys, I understand wanting to maximize your value, but that's definitely a guy you want to get. And I agree. I think several of the guys from the Penn State defense would be ideal. They were obviously talented. I mean, they were hyped going into last season because of the talent on their roster. Things didn't work out for sure, but they're still talented players. As you mentioned, you bring them after they've already been in Jim Knowles' defense for one season. It's kind of like you get a head start on the 26th season, figuring this defense out. And then they can help other people too. They can help their teammates. I mean, it's not just beneficial for them and for Tennessee. It's beneficial for Tennessee in the sense that they can help bring these other guys along too, because they've been in it for a whole season.
Absolutely. And I think hopefully a big piece of that will be Anthony Poindexter. And we haven't, there was so much news in the last week since the last time that we talked. Zach, obviously the loss to Illinois that we already kind of quickly glanced over. But you got your whole defensive staff put in place. They get rid of Willie Martinez. They get rid of Chop. And they bring in what you've heard about Poindexter is a guy who's extremely highly regarded as both a coach and a recruiter, which is really nice. And you got to hope that pays dividends here, because I've said it for a long time that more than anything, get a guy who's a recruiter right now. When you're hiring coaches, and then Heupel has barely hired any coaches, so we haven't been able to talk about it that much. But I think you kind of got both, and now you also need the development piece really badly. Crompton talked about that in our post game after Illinois. At a number of positions, excluding defensive line, you really see a lack of development with Heupel's team, and that has to change.
Yeah. Especially at the offensive line. Somebody already mentioned it in the comments about some of the development, and somebody threw out Sam Pittman's name, which I know we all love Sam Pittman, but his style is so different from what Heupel runs that I don't know if that would work. Plus Heupel, I don't think Heupel's ever going to fire Glenn Ellerbe unless things just get real bad. But yeah, I mean they haven't developed talent along the offensive line the way that you'd like to see. They've got a lot of like 4-star recruits that just haven't panned out and have ended up going elsewhere. That's tough. Like, it's hard to build a program when that's happening, and you've got to kind of rely on transfers working out. And they're fortunate they've had some good transfers, but I don't foresee Glenn Ellerbe going anywhere. And at the same time, offensive line development clearly has to improve, or you're not going to get any better. I mean, offensive line, defensive line, if you're not right in those two areas, you're not going to win a championship. You're not going to compete for a championship. You've got to start there. If it's not right in the trenches, nothing else matters.
Yeah, 100%. And hopefully they do. We may have already mentioned the offensive lineman from LSU. Seems like he's is that
Ori?
Yeah. Ory.
I guess he's going to play right tackle. I guess that's how that will shake out. I know somebody also mentioned Lance Hurd. Like, why not just pay Lance Hurd? I don't think clearly it wasn't that. David Sanders is going to
left tackle.
Yes, that's the situation. I think Austin Price has been on 104.5 The Zone saying that Lance Hurd enjoyed his time at Tennessee. So I don't think it was that he just wanted a way out. He wants to play left tackle. Everybody wants to play left tackle. David Sanders is going to move to left tackle. He's probably your best option to left tackle. He's a really good offensive lineman. And Lance Hurd is too. And Lance Hurd could have moved to right tackle like Darnell Wright did in 22 and, worked himself into a top 15 pick. That was a very realistic scenario for him. Darnell Wright's probably going to get an extension with the Bears and get paid a lot of money to be the right tackle. If you're an offensive lineman that can play, you're going to get paid. I mean, look at Trey Smith. He's a guard, highest paid guard in NFL history now. Like, if you can play, you'll get paid. But he didn't want to do that. That's his prerogative. So Tennessee had to go find somebody. And I think this probably, if he works out at Tennessee and you can move Jesse Perry back inside, I do think it strengthens your offensive line from that perspective, as opposed to having Jesse Perry play right tackle and then trying to replace him inside. So I think that's a good pickup. It's kind of an under the radar pickup for Tennessee.
Yeah, that would be huge. And just start stacking these guys because you're getting visits. And we've already been talking about it some. It seems like if you're in the first visit or two, the chance of you getting a guy is exponentially higher than, I see some of these visit lists coming out like, oh, he'll visit Tennessee on February 6th. No, he won't. He's not ever going to visit a month later. That's not happening. Because
Tennessee's had
they're just not
twice already. The safety from Colorado and the linebacker from Baylor, Keaton Thomas.
Yeah, that's just not happening. You can't fall that far down the list. You got to get him in here, give him an impressive offer, and call it a day. And hopefully they can do that specifically with the Penn State guys, your offensive linemen, and start stacking guys. Now everybody kind of wants to know. We've got a bunch of comments here from folks with quarterback. We can start that discussion with a little bit on Joey Aguilar. Rumors, some chatter around that you could see a conclusion or at least a decision on that lawsuit this week, next, something like that. I am going to go out and say Tennessee isn't going to bring him back. Even if he gets the chance to come back. It just feels like this is not the direction that they're going to go.
And we don't know if Joey wants that either.
Well, exactly. 100%. You don't know. I mean, maybe he does finally want to go back to Southern California and go play at UCLA or something. I guess.
Or I mean, he could go to the he could go to the NFL too and take his shot.
Yeah.
Trying to make a roster.
Yes, definitely, and we'll see exactly how that pans out. But we put this guy in the thumbnail with Josh Heupel, and everybody's been talking about this kind of all day long, and really yesterday too. Ty Simpson from Alabama. And the rumors swirling around that entire situation. It seems like the prevailing knowledge is that he's not coming back to Alabama, whether that be the transfer portal or the NFL. And then I was listening to Rocky Top Insider and Chris Lowe today. Chris Lowe is on there, the show that he has with Bob Baskerville. And Chris Lowe was saying if he doesn't get first round grades, Ty Simpson, he will go into the transfer portal, and Chris Lowe flat out said, I was surprised by how kind of forward this was from Chris Lowe. And he's a real purveyor of good information.
Oh, yeah, Chris Lowe's great.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the absolute best in football. Yeah, and I would bet there's some kind of relationship there with him and Ty Simpson's dad. Ty Simpson from Martin, Tennessee, right down the road. His dad's a college football coach. His brother plays high school football down there and is a recruit at the moment.
In Tennessee, I think is recruiting him, right?
Yes, and Josh Heupel was at that high school today. So he went down there and saw a different recruit, saw a different kid down there. But it felt a little pointed that Heupel made that trip down there. But Chris Lowe on that show, he said straight up, if Ty Simpson isn't at Alabama or in the NFL, he'll be at Tennessee. He basically said, I mean, go listen to it. It's like 45 minutes into the show. And he just straight up said that. And I don't know how you feel about that, Zach. It's really interesting. He's not a big runner, which is always a big ding when I think about guys working into Josh Heupel's system. But super smart kid, great thrower of the football, really showed some stuff for Alabama before he kind of was dinged up, injured, didn't look so hot near the end of the season. But he had a whole stretch there where he looked great. I will put it this way. If you gave me the option to have Joey Aguilar or Ty Simpson, I know a lot of people love Joey Aguilar. The story is great. I'm going with Ty Simpson. I mean, you got to look at that body of work there. I don't know how you feel about it, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Ty Simpson's a high-level quarterback. It wasn't perfect this past season. It was his first year as a starter, too. I think that's important to remember that his journey's kind of been unique in the fact that it's kind of been old school, right? Like he stayed at Alabama through a coaching change, through not starting over Jalen Milroe. I mean, he's waited his turn, which I think is respectable. But the times I've watched him play, I said it hasn't always been perfect, but he's made some great, some real high-level throws. He wasn't helped out either by Ryan Williams this season, who had a really rough sophomore season with drops and He's still a dynamic playmaker, but he was not locked in at the same level as he was as a 17-year-old, as a true freshman. But I personally, I would take Ty Simpson in a heartbeat. Does it actually happen? I don't know. I mean, it kind of in a way feels like the Cade Mays thing a couple years ago, because I remember when those Cade Mays rumors first started. I didn't believe it at all. I was like, "There's no chance this is actually going to happen." There's like he's not going to transfer to Tennessee. That was the Pruitt years. I mean, it just didn't seem like something that would ever happen, and it did. So, that has nothing to do with Ty Simpson, but it does make you think like these things do sometimes happen. He grew up in Tennessee. Obviously, Tennessee was heavily involved in his recruitment, but Heupel had just arrived at Tennessee whenever that was happening, and never really had a chance to land him over Alabama and Nick Saban. Seemed like it was a tough decision for him, but it was the decision he made. The NFL thing's interesting. I'm not a big NFL draft guy, especially before the combine and before stuff really starts getting sorted out. But whatever, the weird thing with quarterbacks, and if you do follow the draft, I think everybody understands this, that this time of year, these quarterbacks, it's like, oh, this guy's a second, third round pick. By the time April runs around, everybody needs a quarterback, and these guys start climbing the board, and then you start seeing guys get picked in the top 20, top 30, or in the first round that you never thought would have been first round picks. Like, I didn't think Kenny Pickett was ever going to be a first round pick after watching him just one game against Tennessee, and he shouldn't have been. Clearly, he was terrible in the NFL. But that's what happens. Teams are so desperate to find a quarterback that they'll reach for guys, and there'll be a guy that's really like a fourth or fifth round talent end up going in the first round because, hey, we need a quarterback. And Ty Simpson seems like he has the pro level attributes of being able to operate an offense, and I think some of the stuff Alabama was doing pre-snap was a bit much this past season. I'm sure it's good for his development, but I think that kind of threw that offense off a little bit at times. They had no run game either. I mean, no run game at all.
Yeah.
So that didn't help him either operating as a quarterback. If you go to Tennessee, they're always going to have a run game under Heupel. But that first round thing, personally for me, if I'm Ty Simpson's dad and I'm thinking about his development, I'm saying go play another year. You need another season of SEC starts under your belt. You aren't as good of a college player as you could be, and you still have another year of eligibility. What's the rush in getting into the NFL? Because you get into the NFL, you usually end up on a bad team, and we see how it goes most of the time for these guys. It's rough because you're expected to be the guy from day one, and you're brand new to an NFL locker room. Even if you're Ty Simpson, who grew up a coach's kid, that's the first time you've ever been in that situation. And all of a sudden you're facing the media and you're having to explain why the team's lost 6 games in a row. I mean, just go look at Cam Ward's rookie season and all the ups and downs and stuff he had to answer and go through. Like, it's just a weird path for quarterbacks. And it's not the best path at all, I don't think. And if I'm Ty Simpson, I recognize that. I bet on myself. I'd go make $4 million or whatever it is that he would make coming back for his last season. Then I go to the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. And kind of like Cade Mays, who you already talked about there, I do get the feeling, because his parents are still here, his brother's still here, like, your feelings for his school still stick around. The kid grew up a Tennessee fan and was very close to coming to Tennessee before the transition from Pruitt to Heupel happened. Heupel had zero chance to get him in the door.
Pruitt was going to hire his dad as the quarterback's coach in order to land him, and his dad was going to do it. And then the recruiting scandal broke, and Pruitt called him and was like, "Hey, you might want to hold off on resigning from your job at UT Martin."
And I think that worked out fine for everybody. Simpson got to go and play for Nick Saban. I mean, he's the greatest coach of all time. And now all of that has kind of come to its conclusion. I don't think he'll be welcomed back to Alabama. I don't think that's even an option.
Yeah, they want to go with what? Russell, Matt, one of those. I mean, yeah.
They have a super highly rated quarterback that's sitting behind or coming in or whatever.
Aside real quick, that's another example of how dumb the transfer portal is, that, oh, we got this young guy, we don't want him to leave, so you got to go. We like you, but you got to go because this guy's got more years than you and he's younger, and you got to go.
Yeah, you took us to the second round of the playoff. See ya. Yeah,
it's crazy. It's the same thing as Carson Beck last year with Georgia.
Yeah, 100% it is. And
Beck's still playing and Georgia's not, by the way.
Yes. And I will be more than happy to take Ty Simpson back into the Tennessee fold. I know some Tennessee fans that I saw were like, "No, we're not going to take an Alabama guy back." Hey, can the guy ball? Bring him in here. that's not all I need to know.
You welcomed Alvin Kamara in with open arms,
Yeah.
and he started his career at Alabama. Lots of guys, Miles Kitselman, all kinds of guys.
Yes, I don't care at all as long as in the coming season that kid's gonna be wearing orange or white, and so I'd be fine with it. Is it the ideal fit for this system? I don't think so. I think it really benefits quarterbacks if they're runners in Heupel's system. It's that extra element that you really need to thrive. But he'll be paired with an actual running game next year, which I'm interested to see what he could do. And I think that maybe he could, and maybe Heupel made adjustments this season. Heupel made adjustments to his offense, and maybe he could do a little bit more of that with a guy who's more pass heavy. You just have to see.
Yeah, the running. I'm with you on the running game stuff. That's why the USF quarterback Byron Brown, I feel like would have been perfect. I mean, coming from Dolish's system, which is the same offense, put up monster numbers down there, really effective in the run game. But I mean, he's clearly going to go to Auburn. That would be a shock if he doesn't go to Auburn. He should go to Auburn. Really, that's the best path for him. But to me, that would be a perfect fit because in this offense, you spread the field out so much, and they still do that quite a bit. They've used condensed formations as well this season, and some heavy tight end usage, fullback stuff like that. But they still run their tempo and their wide splits. And when you spread everything out like that, and everything's covered down the field, there's so much room for the quarterback to run in those situations. And Hendon Hooker was so good at finding those seams, finding the open space, and just getting there. Like he had the good instincts to get there, and like. Joe Milton was fast, but he just didn't have that. Nico was fast. He had that at times. Like we saw it here and there. It was fleeting with Nico, right? I mean, that was the biggest part of Nico's problem is he just didn't play free all the time. And Joey just, he did what he could. He competed and he went out there and I think he was just limited as a playmaker with his legs. I mean, he was good enough to make some plays, but, it just wasn't quite enough. But I think somebody mentioned that the comments, Ty Simpson's decision making can kind of mitigate not being able to use your legs as much.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. So I'd welcome him with open arms. I mean, I get it. He played at Alabama, and that sucks. But also, if the guy's good, the guy's good. I think another off season with a sort of quarterback whisperer like Heupel, come on down. I would love to see how that would go. And then, I mean, I think ultimately this kid would get what he wants because he wanted to come to Tennessee originally, badly. He wanted to come to Tennessee.
Yeah, and he was going to be a Tennessee Vol had Pruitt had all that not happened.
Yeah, and it's like I was saying earlier, where I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Vol fan, graduate, yada yada, but certain situations you just have to look at and say, this is better for my life to go over here. And ultimately, he could have stuck it out with Heupel and it would have been fine, but he didn't know that at the time. All he knew was that this place was an absolute shambles when he was coming out of high school.
I thought you were going somewhere else with that sentence.
I mean, it was a dumpster fire. I just completely. Yeah, I could have said something else there.
Yes. So, man, he's going for it.
It's a family show,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were at absolute rock bottom at that moment, and so I can't. I
don't blame him. I get it.
Yeah, and
I wish you would have been a little more straightforward with Heupel through that, knowing that, like, hey, I'm committing at the end of February 2021. You've been here for a month. And Heupel gave it all he had. Like, I don't know. We should probably just let that go, but that always kind of irked me a little bit.
Is there any bitterness about the absolute beatdown that Heupel put on his dad's football team, where they kind of exchanged words?
That was a game. They were running like I covered that game. That was one of the I went to that game and they were running like flea flickers and stuff or something, halfback passes in the second half with like Joe Milton in at quarterback. I mean, they put up like 60 some points, I think, that day.
Yeah,
it definitely seemed like they were sending. Yeah, it definitely felt that way. And Heupel's dialed back on some of that though over the last couple years. That 22 season, I mean, it was like every week he was pissing off the other coach somehow, some way, and I like it, but at the same time, it's probably not the best way to operate because, you know, you're going to hire one of those guys eventually, probably, or something down the road, or one of those players, or, you know.
And technically, Josh Heupel and Jason Martin have the same employer. Everybody works for the University of Tennessee.
Jason Simpson.
Oh, sorry. What did I say?
Martin.
Jason Martin. I was thinking UT Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason Simpson. They work for the same university. Because I believe that Martin campus it's UT. It's all the same. And so I think they could get over that. It'd be fine.
But the part of this conversation though that I think we got to shift to now is, okay, what if it doesn't happen? Because I still think the odds are fairly low, because there's a lot of people said in the comments, it's how many people are going to pass up a first round chance to be a first round pick and that security and being that. And like we've already said, chances are whatever his grade is now, it's going to increase by the time the draft comes around. I think teams are going to love Ty Simpson in interviews, like at the combine and stuff. And that's really where you can convince some teams then that you're the guy, and they'll go for you. Like they don't care what the draft grade is. They'll go for you. So that's going to be tough to pass up for him. So let's say it doesn't happen. Then what for Tennessee? Because we don't think Joey is going to come back. Maybe he does. I mean, that's still a possibility. But if Joey doesn't come back and the Ty Simpson thing doesn't work out, Tennessee hasn't had any quarterbacks on campus. Brendan Sorsby's going to Texas Tech. Sam Levitt's probably going to go to LSU. I'd say he's going to go visit there. And they wanted Sorsby. They didn't get him. You know, Kiffin's going to do whatever he has to do to get Levitt, which I think is a bit of a risk with him coming off the injury. But we'll see how that plays out. I mean, where do you go from there? Quarterback wise, I think at that point Tennessee's probably bringing in somebody to just compete with McIntyre and Brandon, and whoever wins the job wins the job. And I wouldn't be shocked if it's one of the young guys in that situation, because you're getting to the point where there aren't really any for sure starters that are going to be left if you get into this next weekend.
Yeah, they got to be thinking that way. I feel like it would end up being somebody that's completely off the map.
I'm sure it would.
Of sorts.
But like even, the James Madison quarterback was another one that I thought, Alonzo Barnett put up huge numbers, for a team that did make the playoff. Maybe they shouldn't have been in the playoff, but they did make the playoff. Went to the same high school as Faison Brandon, so there's some familiarity there. I thought he would have been a perfect fit for Tennessee in this offense, but he's going to UCF to be Scott Frost's quarterback down there and replace Taven Jackson, another former Vols. So I don't know. And then, you got the UNLV quarterback that who visited Florida State, Calandria. I don't know. I mean, Tennessee hasn't really been in on any of these guys. Like they've talked with Sorsby and Levitt, but those aren't going to work out. North Texas kid. Drew Mestamaker's another one that I would have liked, but he's going to follow Eric Morris to Oklahoma State and be the quarterback there. So you're kind of running out of options at this point of like legitimate, like, hey, this guy's going to be the starter options.
I'm looking at mock drafts, just the whole mock draft database. Fox Sports, SI, Clutch Points. I don't know what Landry hat is.
Are you looking for
Mike
Simpson?
Luciano? Yeah, and Ty Simpson has not been in the first round in any of those.
He was in one of them from The Athletic today from Nick Baumgartner, I believe, and oddly enough, he had him going to the Browns at the end of the first round because of a pick that the Browns own. I think that's another element too, that and maybe this isn't a huge deal, but I would personally, if I'm a quarterback going to the NFL, I want to go to a team that has a pick at the end of the first round. I don't really care about the notoriety of being the number one overall pick or the paycheck that comes with it. The real money comes later anyway, because the rookie salary scales are nothing like they used to be. I think Sam Bradford was the last guy to really take advantage of that massive contracts that some of these rookie quarterbacks used to get. But if I'm a quarterback, a good quarterback, I want to go late first round to a team that's probably pretty good. And maybe I can sit for a year or two and then start. I mean, we've seen those situations before. It was like Lamar Jackson. I mean, that's the way it worked out for him going to the Ravens. So if you're a projected late first round pick, I'd almost rather be that than early first round pick. I mean, that may sound dumb, but
Yeah.
I don't want to go play for the Jets or the Raiders or the Browns or any of these other terrible franchises that are just run through quarterback after quarterback after quarterback and just ruin their careers pretty much. I mean, look at Sam Darnold and how long it's taken him to recover from playing for the Jets and the Panthers and two not great franchises.
I have seen a couple Bleacher Report had Simpson in the first round. I
think he'd be a first round pick. I think he'd be a first round pick just because there's not a lot of great quarterbacks.
It looks like it's a distinct possibility. That was the only point that I wanted to make there in looking that stuff up. It's a definite possibility. Yeah, this one has him at 20. For this is USA Today. They predict him as the 20th overall pick. So yeah, I would say the chances are he's not coming, as kind of convenient as that would be. Yeah, I mean, so some of the comments, Turner mentions the UNLV QB, Calandria. Maybe that's one that I think you just have to see how it plays out. But I hope they're making a contingency plan. I hope they're doing something. I hope that Heupel was at that high school today, literally negotiating the contract with Ty Simpson. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, if you got it, you better be doing something.
I mean, what about like Jay says here? And this is, Jay says GMAC is at the exact same point of development that Nico was when Tennessee started him in 24. Staff seems to love GMAC. I'm betting he's going to be the starter. You got to play these quarterbacks at some point. I mean, that is true. I mean, what Julian's saying at Ohio State's probably that same range. I think I would be okay with that. But here's the problem is that in college football now, and this is what I hate about it, you're not allowed a non-championship contending year. You're not allowed to do that. Like every year's got to be all in to win a championship. And that's not realistic because I think you've got to have an older roster. You've got to have some experience. Obviously you have to have talent. You have to stay healthy. A lot has to go right. And you got to have some breaks. Like some things just have to go your way. Things didn't go Tennessee's way this season. They had some things that ruined games for them. There's these game-changing moments that didn't go their way. Whereas in like 2022, when you beat Alabama, like some things went your way in that game. A late pass interference call that wiped an interception off the board. Alabama misses a field goal. Saban wasn't great in clock management in that game. Sometimes you like that. You need that too because all these teams are good. They're all trying to make plays and get to the same place you are, and they've all got similar talent. So it's as easy as ever and as hard as ever to win a championship, in my opinion. So why are we demanding that these teams are championship contenders year in, year out? I'm not saying that you should settle for mediocrity, but if you're going to build a program and build a championship team, it's tough to just bring in a bunch of guys that have not been in your program and go win it. I mean, it can happen, but I just think that's tough and it's not sustainable. Give these guys a little bit of runway to be like, okay, you went 9-3, you went 8-4. And now these guys have experience, and now they're on like their third year. Now you're ready to go. I think McIntyre, if you started him this year, 27, he's probably a championship level quarterback. But I don't think Heupel's going to have that luxury.
No, he's not. Kurt Cignetti and Clark Lee have made it where that's not an option anymore. Where, I mean, especially now that Cignetti kicked Alabama's teeth in, I mean, you got nothing. You're looking across at his roster that's full of 3-star guys and going, excuse me, why are we not doing this? Like everybody is looking at their coach saying, if this freaking guy at Indiana, of all places, Indiana can do this, what are we doing wrong? And that's the world that we live in,
I agree with,
unfortunately.
I very much agree with JPat86 in the comments that he says, I think the confidence of this team dropped when that field goal was missed against Georgia, almost like it took a piece of their soul. They wanted that work for that, and they were there, and it just didn't work out. I agree with that a lot. I think this team, I'm not going to say they were. I think they were better than the 8-5 record will show, but they deserve that 8-5 record at the same time. But they were a better team. They could have been a better team than that. But that Georgia game really sucked some momentum out of them, and they just didn't. They didn't get going. You know, in 22, you beat Florida and LSU like it was like a rocket ship, and you were gone until you ran into Georgia, and that just. I think that would have happened this year. I don't know if Tennessee still would have made the playoff. I don't know what would have happened, but I think we would have seen a more inspired and just better all around team, and maybe they get back into the playoff. But it is what it is. Like it didn't go their way.
No, it did not. And so here we sit. Now, speaking of a team that has talent and should be playing a little bit better, we do need to talk basketball before the show is over. But before we do, Zach, anything else with the portal, Heupel? Anything that we want to quickly talk about?
We'll just see how this thing plays out this week. This is a very important week. Chaz Coleman, you hope that works out. Hopefully you can keep him from going to Columbus. We'll see. I think it's worth noting that Ohio State was on him pretty heavy as a recruit back in 24. And late in that cycle, Ohio State tried to, they tried to flip a couple guys. They tried to flip David Sanders. They brought him in, I believe, for the Indiana game. And they tried to bring Chaz Coleman in for that Michigan game at the end of the 24 season. And Penn State was able to, it was an official visit, too. It wasn't just an unofficial visit. It was going to be an official visit a week before the early signing period started. And Penn State was able to keep him from going on that visit. So this is something you can do with this kid. And I think you're going to have to do it to get him. And then, you got the Wake Forest transfer defensive lineman supposed to be coming in this week. Hopefully he makes it to Knoxville. Otherwise, that's another one that you'd see where you're at the back of the line and never got a chance. I mean, that's the thing is if you're not at the front of the line, you don't even get a chance. It's hard to even blame the head coach or the staff if they don't get a chance. And I said earlier, sometimes in these situations, you just can't control when these visits happen.
Yeah, you can't. And I just look. Chaz Coleman is an Ohio guy. Warren, Ohio, which is up close to Cleveland, but still, he'd be close to family. And yeah, we'll see. Please, Heupel, please. We need this. We'll talk about it all next week. Obviously, any movement that does end up happening. But let's finish with this, Zach. Basketball goes to Fayetteville, Arkansas, which has been hell on earth for Tennessee basketball for my entire life, basically. It is extremely, extremely hard to win in Bud Walton Arena for the Vols. Weirdly, the last time they played there before this last game, I think won by like 30. But that was Eric Musselman's last year. That team was terrible. That Arkansas team was terrible. You have a lead for a big part of the game. I think that Arkansas team is really good. The Acuff kid, he's one of the best freshmen in America. He's playing at a level that you wish Nate Ament was playing at. And that's really tough that he went out there and beat you like that, scored 30 points on you, career high, just really dropped it right on your head. But I don't get too caught up in a game like this because weirdly overall, he actually played decently. Like I said, had a lead for a lot of that game, shot pretty well from the floor, missed a ton of free throws. That's fixable. A ton of turnovers. That's fixable. And you cut out those two things as a win. And so I don't hate that game. A lot of people have been imploding over it. And my big takeaways were this. Nate Ament needs to not start anymore. He needs to be playing 10, 15, 20 minutes at most for at least the next game because he's a liability straight up. Like if he's not making free throws. Now, if he can make free throws, he's pretty good at getting to the line. And
he shot with 11 free throws.
Yeah.
He only hit 5, I think.
Yeah, it was terrible. And he was the biggest offender of the missed free throws in that game because he's the guy that we need getting to the line. He needs to kind of serve that Grant Williams purpose where, he's not making every single shot, but at least he's getting to the line and he would have scored 11 points from the free throw line if he hadn't. And he needs to be coming off the bench. And you saw, this is probably the thing that really calmed me down from as frustrating and as annoying as that game was. Amari Evans looked awesome.
That's what I was going to ask you about, because that's 2 games. That's 2 games in a row that he's played well.
He looks like he has a dog in him. And frankly, he's a guy that's on your team playing like you wish Nate Mint would. And specifically, what I mean by that is that he's just willing to put his body on the line. That he's willing to – it just looks like he's not fazed by the moment. It felt like Arkansas was doing that thing that they do. They always did it to Zakai every time he played there. Or was it Vescovi? They did it to somebody when we played there. But they were like, booing him and chanting his name. He airballed. And then
I think that was
screaming airball at him.
I feel like I remember.
I feel like it was Vescovi. Yeah. But they were doing that, and he had a really nice dunk right at the beginning, and he kind of wilted after that. And just it was tough. And so I walk away just going, bring that kid off the bench. It's what needs to happen. That was the turning point for Kennedy Chandler.
I've lost you here, Charlie.
Oh, okay. So hold on. Where was the last thing? Nothing?
No, I got you now.
Hold on. Okay. What was the last thing?
Amit going after that.
He just needs to be coming off the bench. Amari Evans needs more play, and you need to. Frankly, you need to really figure it out with Jacoby Gillespie, because he's more of a 2 guard than he is a true point guard, and missing out on a true distributing point guard is just, man, they miss it. It would have been just so you would be a national championship team this year if Zakai was able to come back and gain. I mean, that duo right there, the depth and the serious playmakers that would have given you, and the ability for Zakai to facilitate for them, would have put every single piece in place that you needed. Just it would have clicked it right in place. And now, because Gillespie's a true shooter, he's a dude who can create his own shot and is really fun, but he can't carry a team. He just can't. And so here you are. If Ament's not going to play well, you have to figure something out. And maybe Amari Evans is that. Man, maybe it's JP Estrella stepping up. Maybe it's Felix Okpara stepping up. I don't think Okpara is going to be a consistent offensive guy at all. But there's just something that you got to do, and I don't know what it is. And you got Texas coming in. You better beat Texas. Texas lost to Mississippi State at home on Saturday. It's the first year for what's his face out there, and you need to beat them. But that's kind of it. I don't know. I didn't have a ton more to say about basketball. Just to maybe talk some folks off the ledge. Like, still give it a minute. It's okay. It sucks to lose to Calipari, and I hate that, and whatever. But you can work around, I think, a Mint not playing well, and maybe if you bring him off the bench, then maybe he'll get inspired like Kennedy Chandler did. But I will say, I don't think Barnes is going to bench him. But
I think I agree with you, though. I think that would be the perfect thing to do, because I think you've just put a little too much pressure on this kid coming out of high school. And we talked about it, well, I guess just this past summer before, at some point we talked about how it was so unusual that Rick Barnes hyped Amit so much and spoke about him the way that he did. Sometimes that stuff can be a negative in a sense for a young player that feels like they have to live up to expectations with being this 5-star guy coming out, making a lot of money. You got to go perform. Like, you got to go show you're worth that. I think it puts a lot of pressure, and some kids just handle that better than others, because it's an adjustment going into college as well at the same time. And then it just kind of snowballs on you. It's almost like they mentioned that we didn't even talk about this, but Tennessee needs a kicker now that Max Gilbert is transferring to Arkansas. Same thing that happened to him. Like, Max Gilbert's a talented kicker, but it got in his head and it just snowballed in big moments, and he just you try to get him out there, and it was like we almost knew what was going to happen against Illinois. It was just a kid that was important. I think it meant just feeling some of those same feelings. And if he came off the bench, I think it would just be like, give him a chance to just sit back, let the pressure off a little bit, and just be him. He's clearly talented. It hasn't changed. He's the same player he was that you signed, the same player that you liked so much coming out of high school. It's in there, and I think he'll eventually get there. But for it to matter for Tennessee, he needs to get there, quickly, over the next 2 months for it to really pay off. Because I don't think that's a guy's probably going to come back either way.
I'm hoping and praying. If you get through this first stretch of SEC games, okay, it lightens up on the back end. Obviously, you got to get to 20 wins. I think if they get to 22-ish wins, which would be 12 more, I mean, that would be a nice SEC record. If they can get there, 3 to 5 seeds, somewhere in that range, and that's okay. That would be fine. Yeah. But get it together. Plenty to figure out. I go and smack Texas and build a little confidence like you did with Louisville. And
yeah, I mean, this team, like, they beat Houston not that long ago, and they played really well. And it just like that, they can be that. They are that. When they're clicking on all cylinders, but they just don't have any momentum at this point.
No, they don't. And so we'll reconvene. I'm expecting this week to go 1-1. I think you beat Texas and then you lose at Florida. Florida, another place that has just escaped Tennessee as a place they can win. I think the last time you beat them there was Grant and Admiral. Which is just brutal. Now they're stinking too. They have a worse record than Tennessee does right now. They lost to Missouri on Saturday, despite the fact that they just won a national title. So yeah.
Waniak's right though. It's hard to win on the road in college basketball. It's hard to win on the road in any sport, really.
In bad basketball, you can have such a heavy influence from the refs. The refs.
No, they get caught up in the crowd, the momentum of the crowd, and it's it's almost hard not to blame the refs in some of those situations because you've benefited from it too if you're the home team at times. But it's hard to not get caught up in the momentum of the crowd as a player, as a official, as a coach, whatever it is. I mean, those momentum swings are real, and they have a big impact.
They definitely do, and hopefully they can figure out something. I think. Again, Amen doesn't have to figure it out if you can find a way to unlock that backcourt. You're good enough in the front court to circumvent Amen in this, I think, and have a good season that can end you near the top of the SEC. But it's got to be Amari Evans. I mean, it's got to be something where you get a breakout, you get a surprise, you get something clicks into place. And we haven't seen it yet. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they use Evans moving forward if he continues to get more time.
Start him as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you might as well.
Yeah. He's playing better than Amen is. It is what it is. Charlie Burris, Zach Reagan. That's show. The A to Z Sports Big Orange Podcast. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. Another great night in the comments. And we appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out with us. Seriously, say it every week, but we could not do this show without you. And we will be back in a week, I'm sure, with tons and tons of transfer portal news. And we'll talk about every single bit of it and maybe be talking about a couple of basketball wins, but I'll keep my expectations low there. So, all right. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will talk to you next week.
See you guys later.